Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You are an Olympian. I've met a lot of cool people, but what is that like? I mean, an Olympian.
It's still so surreal. Every day I pinch myself. Now I'm older and retired, but I still wake up every day and I pinch myself. Like yesterday, I got to play with Ronaldinho and Kaká, and that was like the most incredible feeling. I'm like, wow, I'm here. How did I get here? A lot of hard work. It's such a great feeling. So, playing in the Olympics was an absolute dream come true since I was a young child. So,
I mean, to compete at that level, I mean, in soccer or football, for my
mhm.
European fans, to get to that level, you had to have been obsessed.
Yeah, I actually was a late bloomer in the sport. So basketball was my first love, and I started playing that when I was really young. And I had two younger brothers, which I got to go and play with the neighborhood boys and my brothers. And so they made me all rough and tough. And so we played like every sport under the sun. And basketball became my first love. And then we would play in the backyard playing soccer. And I was like, oh, I kind of like this. So I told my mom, I was like, hey, I think I want to like try this. And I was on the older side. I was like 12 years old, which is kind of a late start for someone that had a career like mine. I remember we go to practice and I was like all excited. And then I got there. It was co-ed. I got there and I was like, I don't want to do this, mom. And I sat on the bench most of practice. And then the coach, like midway through, he's like, are you sure you don't want to like come out and try it? I was like, fine. So I went out there and I just like nailed a boy to the ground and I scored this like worldly goal. And I was like, my mom picked me up and she was like, so how was it? And I was like, this is the coolest thing in the whole world. This is my sport. I loved it. So I was a two-sport athlete the majority of my career. That's why I love when parents ask me, like, oh, I'm just going to have my child focus on one sport. I was like, no, I'm telling you, let them play every sport under the sun because actually being a basketball player helped me later on in my career.
Well, it's interesting you say, because I wrote down a note talking about Caitlin Clark.
Mm,
It's interesting because you, as a basketball star, basketball player, that most men, we perceive women to not be aggressive, or at least we don't want to see women being aggressive. And then we see in the news she's getting pushed around. Is that real sports? I mean, is that how it is for women in sports? Is it that way?
I would say it's even more competitive than on the men's side. I mean, if you ever watch football, soccer, the women's are a lot more, way more physical, way more aggressive. That's just the nature of how they teach us how to play, especially in the US. It's like aggressive nature first and then technical second. And then in Europe, it's kind of reversed. So when you play with a lot of the Europeans, they're so technical, their IQ is like incredible. And then in here, we teach like, just go out there and be an athlete, just run after, just chase the ball and chase something down. Like I was Olympic lifting, squatting 300. Then I get to the pros and it's like a whole different mindset. I've had like so many concussions throughout my career as well, too, because women and people are like, how much you have so many? And it's like, women are so aggressive. It's just the competitive nature that we have. And we're always trying to prove something.
Now, was it hard on you relationship wise when you're competing at that level?
It is. I think it's a lot easier for male athletes to be in relationships when they're playing, but for us, we're like constantly on the road, constantly traveling. So if you want to have a relationship or a family, it's very difficult. So, I'm on the older side now, and now that I've retired, I'm like, oh, now I can have a relationship, have a family. Like I'm so ready for that point in my life. But when you're playing, it's very difficult. It's still a beautiful thing if you're able to make it work, but it's very difficult, especially when you're going from club to club because the seasons for women are a little bit different than on the men's, and they're a little bit shorter. And then you go into national team camp. And so we were traveling from one end of the world to the other nonstop. So it's hard.
Measuring success as a player versus a coach, how do you measure? Was it based upon how many goals you score? Like how do you measure success at that level?
That's a really good question. Early on in my career, I would say, especially since in the media, you always see it's all about like who scores the most goals. They always get the most notoriety, who's doing this, who's doing that, getting the most accolades. And so when I was a forward in the beginning of my career, it was all about goals. I have to have six records. I have to do this at school. And because sports are political as well, right? So especially on the female side, going into like the draft and everything like that. They're like, what school did they come from? How many goals did they have? Like, what did they bring to the table? What's their accolades? And, that's starting to change a little bit, but we still have a long way to go. But for me, measuring success, I think now I'm at my age, it's just accomplishing the small goals that get to the big goals and just being a teammate, on a winning team or just on a team in general, because the window is so short for us to play, but also there's not a lot of opportunity. It's starting to get more opportunity, but just being in those in those places, in those environments, and doing and living your dream, that's success to me. That's happiness to me. I got to do everything that I set out to accomplish in my life ever since I was a little girl. I said that's going to be me someday. So for me, even the lows of the game, that's still success to me because I was there and I was doing it.
Well said. Now, there's been this conversation, and it wasn't from me, many others, regarding compensation. That women in sports aren't compensated the same way that men are in sports. Now, one could make arguments of the that different factors play in, but you're a player, you're top of your game. Do you think you were fairly compensated?
This is a topic that is brought up to me a lot, especially from men that don't know sports very well too. They always want to come at us on social media, but they don't really understand. We're putting in the time and the effort just as much. And a lot of the federations are paying men's and the women's salaries, but the men are still getting paid more. And we're succeeding, right? In Canada, in the US, you see the women's team and around the world, the women's teams, they're thriving. But regardless if they're thriving or not, they're still working their tails off. Like there's so many of us that have had to have multiple jobs. Like at one point I was working like 4 or 5 extra jobs on the side while being an Olympic athlete, which is absolutely insane. Now, they're making strides, everything's getting better. Sponsorships are taking notice, media are taking notice. There's more platforms, there's more visibility. You see like stadiums being sold out around the world. It's such a beautiful thing. You see like little boys wearing female jerseys, and it's so cool. It's a testament to the people that came before us, our generation, and now what they're producing on the pitch. I did not make any money, retired with barely nothing. I was making like, I'll say it out loud, like my first year in the pros, I was making about $700 a month and I was a drafted athlete.
$700 a month.
And we lived in a hotel all together, like two people to a room. And it was just like for a whole season.
And you're a pro at this point.
And we actually ended up winning that year. We went through
Wow.
3 coaching changes and we ended up winning. That was my first year in the pros. And I was just like, it's an honor to be here, but man, I gotta pay my bills. And the medical insurance and stuff wasn't great. So it's like if something happens to me, I remember I had to have an ankle surgery and it was like $29,000. I'm like, how am I gonna afford that? Like I'm not making any money. And then at the peak of my career as an Olympian, making on 2 teams, one salary, 30K. So when they say, brand deals are a big thing, it is, and marketing yourself the right way. And so now when I mentor these up and coming athletes, I'm just like, hey, this is what you need to do. We need to set up financial portfolios. They set all this stuff up in the NFL, NBA, MLB. They set these guys up. They help them make extra money. They help them with their retirement. Like they're set for life. I don't have a retirement plan. I don't have any of that because there was nothing in place to help us. And a lot of these girls, they come in, they're so young, and now they're even younger. Like you have 14, 15-year-olds coming into the league. Who's helping them?
Who does look out for them? Because I have to imagine there's a lot of predators. And these predators are looking to take advantage of, there's an old saying that is you're either at the table or you're on the menu.
Hmm.
So is that what you're doing? You're trying to protect them from some of these predators or at least keep them from quitting? Because I think this has to be very challenging. You have to believe in you. You're taught as a young kid that sharing is caring. And now you're like, look, you need to be selfish. You need to get out there, score goals, look out for your brand.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, now you're seeing like 13, 14 high schoolers like joining into the league. You have a couple players that are already in the league playing. Granted, they're a little bit better taken care of now. They're getting the top agents, which is amazing. They have their parents. I think people are a little bit more aware of the things that go on behind closed doors and all these things. But I always tell a lot of the youngsters that I mentor because I do a little bit of agent work and then a lot of mentorship, and just a lot of them just don't know and their parents don't understand how it works. Or the thing is we don't have good agents too. Sorry for all your agents out there.
Why is that?
I know that a lot of them take advantage of the situation because they know that we don't understand how it works. So they'll make you sign a deal that's like, oh, I need 2K up front. And they're like, but I'm not making any money. How am I supposed? I remember one agent was like, he got me free cleats. And he's like, oh, you owe me money for that. I said, these were free. And I didn't get like a deal out of it. Like why do I owe you? And so I've learned a lot along the way. And I missed out on a lot of brand deals on the Olympics, World Cup because I just didn't understand. And then I learned things the hard way. So now I can take those learnings and help this next generation coming through. And I said, hey, you got to be your biggest advocate, right? Because things aren't just going to be handed to you. Because if you're not a big name, A lot of these brands that don't know sports, they just go with the big name, which is fine, which is great. They deserve it. But there's so many talented players here. And if these people want to make a name for themselves, unfortunately for females, branding and marketing is the biggest thing for us.
So how do you do that? How do you brand yourself? How do you stand out when speaking up is scary? Telling your opinions is scary. Being pictured with the wrong person is scary. There are all these threats to your image.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, especially with the younger, is like don't post any partying pictures. Like keep it soccer focused or like keep it focused on things that you're passionate about. You got the footy side, and then maybe you're into art, you're into design, you're into that. So like focus on a few things that you're good at that you like and start gradually organically building your brands. Like it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time. And then a biggest thing which I've noticed, which has been phenomenal in the female athlete community is especially on the soccer side and the men's side as well with the soccer side, it's a beautiful community of people. And now everyone is starting to work together, help each other, collab together, and it helps elevate the brand. So I think it's just being smart with where you see yourself and the things that you want to accomplish. But you always have to be on your toes because someone is always looking to take advantage. But it's really important to build your brand.
Now, there's always a cost to success. What did it cost Lauren?
Ah, that is a really good question. I think especially I think the biggest thing that I've learned too is when I retired, I realized that my only friends were my teammates, and then you're not around them anymore. So I think developing relationships outside of your sport and your platform is really, really crucial. Time away from loved ones. I've had loved ones pass away. Also things the thing is when you're an athlete, you're in that competitive mind spirit, you're alone all the time and people don't realize. So when you're getting like social bullied on social media or things happening in your life, it's like hard because you don't really have someone maybe you can turn to. I went through a really bad time in my life with depression and suicide and things that are very important to talk about on my platform. But like I thought maybe I'd be married with a family and kids by now. So the relationship thing that we talk about, it's hard. I wouldn't change anything for the world because I got to do everything I wanted to do. But it did cost us, you miss out on a lot of things in life. So now I feel like I'm just playing catch up.
Self-care. I'm learning this
Self
because
care.
I'm an old man now. I turned 41
Yeah.
in August, and I'm learning that I
We're the
didn't.
same age.
Well, then
Wait,
we're
when's your
both
birth?
we're both two old people.
Wait, question. When's your birthday? Because I'm August 14th.
Oh my
I'm
God.
August
This
14th.
is weird. I'm
Yeah.
August 12th.
And I'm going to be 41.
I'm gonna be 41.
That's so
See,
funny. Look
that's
at
really
this.
weird. Okay, so we both like the stage according to all those horoscopes and things I read. Self-care, because I've learned now the older I'm getting that I know nothing, and I missed so much common sense along the way. And one of those things being taking care of Dustin. And it's okay to say Dustin needs help. It's okay to say Dustin's not feeling well.
Yeah.
Developing a self-care plan. What is Lauren's self-care plan? Because I'm an idea thief. So tell me what your self-care plan looks like.
Yeah. I mean, you're always constantly on the grind, right? So we don't know when to pull the plug and just kind of like sit back and just take a deep breath. And I think that's so important. Luckily for us, even though we are like on the grind constantly and super competitive, they instilled in this. We had sports psychologists and stuff that we worked with that are just like, you learn how to be an athlete, you learn how to be a professional. And so part of that is self care. And it's a huge, huge part of it. So for me, how I start my mornings, just like taking a deep breath and just like being grateful that I'm here. And I haven't really gotten to the meditation thing, but I do like listening to like podcasts or music and just kind of zoning out and chilling because also being an elite athlete, the mindset is 99.9% of everything that we do. I love the spa, massages and stuff like that. And knowing when to say no, I think is a big thing in our job. Is knowing when to say no because we have to be on the grind 24/7 if we're not making money. We're always saying yes to a lot of things. And then you just get overwhelmed and then you don't play your best. So you need to just realize like what your goals are and you need to just be like, okay, I map it out every single day and there's always self-care in that for me. And I just take a deep breath and I sit back and I'm like, okay, this is awesome. So it's very important. I'm all about balance.
I like this because I'm starting to things that were always there that now I recognize. A text message from somebody I hadn't heard from in whatever, an email, immediately my brain goes, what do they want?
Hmm.
There's clearly a motive. And what's that been like for you? Because people around you, They have all sorts of motives. They want to take from you. They want you to elevate them. They want you to be Mother Teresa, I imagine, during that.
Yeah, there is a little bit of the what, you know, what can you do for me, mentality. And especially being in LA, I've noticed it's a little bit more, but the thing is the way I grew up, the way I was raised, like I'm a very like open, honest, trustworthy person. So I've been burned a lot, but now I'm starting to really realize I'm like I've learned how to be a little bit more tough and to really just kind of like take it all in and be like, hey, this person's not meant to be in your life. So I've weeded out a lot of people in my life, and I have to keep my circle very small, very positive, very motivating. If we're not inspiring one another, we shouldn't be hanging out. And now I've been able to read the signs of people being like, oh, like I need this from you, but then they never really check in with you. They just need something from you, and you're kind of like, okay, hi, like so good to see you, like great talk. But no, I'm not going to help you. Like I hope you find what you're looking for. The thing is I'm so nice, I still sometimes say yes because that's just who I am and how I was raised. It's definitely different. So that's why I also like tell these youngsters, I was like, just really like be on top of that and realize who is there to really be there for you, because that's what's going to be important in the long run. Because when, part of my language, is hitting the fan, who's going to be there next to you to help you through that?
So is that how you define a friend? This new version of Lauren, chapter 41, how does she define friendship?
I define friendship as someone who is going to be there through thick and thin. Like if you're having a bad day, like they just know. Like some of my closest friends, they'll just message me and they're like, "Hey, I can tell you were just like quiet." Like if I don't post on social media and they're like, "Are you okay?" So for me, it's like I keep the people around who genuinely truly care about Lauren. They're positive. I don't have any negativity, nothing draining me, because for me with my depression and my concussions, I have the depression associated with the concussions that I've had. I can't have the negativity in my life. So, and I like people who are always like thinking of ideas and ways that we can, better our lives and help each other. So I'm a very collaborative mind spirit, So for me, I like that kind of energy. So I think it's really important to have friends in your life that motivate you in every way possible.
It takes courage to say the word you just did, depression.
Yeah.
It takes courage. And people assume that because of all your success, that it all was easy, that it was just luck. And none of it was luck. I mean, one could say you might have been born to the right conditions or places, but that luck happened because you created the activity,
Hmm.
that you were the one giving yourself the daily routine. You were the one giving the sacrifices along the way, giving up, as you said, building a family, to be devoted to your career. And now you're at this stage in life where you're all about impact and giving back. Do you think that's what life's about? Is that leaving this world better than the way we found it?
Yeah, I think, some athletes are like, I'm here just to play sports, and that's totally okay. But I've realized as a female, it's really important for us to use our platforms in a positive light and to really talk about certain things. And then you see a lot of male athletes starting to talk about a lot of things. Like for me, it was a big thing when Kevin Love came out and talked about his depression and other things that he was going through. And then I was kind of like, okay, nobody knew that I was like struggling with this, and nobody knew that I had this incident happen. And then I started speaking out about it, and it was amazing the amount of people who messaged me and they're like, "You saved my life." And I've lost a lot of people to suicide, a lot of people close to me. There's a lot of people in the football community. Mental health is a huge thing to talk about. So I think it's really, really, really important. So I'm glad that I can use my platform for good and help people. And I didn't realize the impact that it was going to have. I told myself going into this, I always wanted to be a role model. I wanted to be somebody that this little girl could look up to, this little boy could look up to. So now you have kids coming up to you, even adults. They're like, what you posted, what you talk about, how you're so open, like you literally have changed my life. And I'm like, wow, this is what it's all about. This is the most important reason why I'm in the position that I'm in. And I think it's really important for us to use our platform. So I think a lot of the athletes that are doing that they're doing it in a beautiful way, and it's really helping a lot of people.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.